Do you ever consider how history repeats itself? From the biblical times to the current era in which we live, there is a story behind everything. The Holocaust was a devastating time for every member of society in and across Europe, including for the rich and the poor of society. These are the stories of the brave and courageous fighters and resistors of the Holocaust. During these uprisings, Jews took to the streets as well as to their respective government agencies. They rallied with the people in their country to liberate their homeland and support the people that they fought for. This sense of unwavering patriotism which stood with these people throughout the entire war, along with their hatred for their invaders and the Nazi leadership in their country, compelled these Jews to commit their lives to engage for the purpose of their freedom. Thousands of years before these crimes, the Jews had suffered under oppression in their homelands, even since biblical times. Unfortunately, the Jewish people have been at the mercy of nations and tribes for their entire history. For the first time in a long time of their history of living in Europe, they've established themselves for working hard and dedication to their trades. Unfortunately for the Jews, barbaric conditions, including borderline imprisonment in these inhumane ghettos established by the Nazis, forced hundreds of thousands of Jews to call these ghettos home. Some of these movements to be liberated from the ghettos took place in some of the most famous around Europe, including places like Zettel and Warsaw. While some of these peaceful protests liberated some, in places like Białystok and in Warsaw, Poland, they had to resort to more violent methods to be freed from the ghettos. Some of the more violent liberation attempts were led by people like Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He and other crucial role players in liberations of people around Europe set out to kill the Holocaust at its core, to assassinate Hitler. Multiple attempts were sought out to kill Hitler. However, everyone failed. Unfortunately, what many thought were attempts for good turned out to be extremely costly for the Jews. While most rebellions were fought in the ghettos or in underground missions, these select few uprisings took place in camps or on the streets towards public figures. These were very costly for the Jews, as because of the tens of thousands of other unrelated Jews to these crimes were arrested and then killed. Thankfully for these innocent Jews accused of these crimes, these extreme liberation attempts happened very rarely. Thankfully for these innocent Jews, these extremist liberation attempts happened rarely, so there were very few causes of this happening. One of the most resilient liberators in the entire Holocaust was Corrie ten Boom. She was an extremely resilient and courageous Dutch watchmaker who hid approximately 800 Jews in her home during the Holocaust. She hid up to 15 Jews at a time in various secret compartments around her home, using secret codes to relay information across Europe at the same time. This creative mindset enabled these secret rebellions. The interesting part of this, however, the Nazis knew these underground movements were going on. However, there was nothing they could do to track down these liberators or to stop them. These liberation attempts put a huge roadblock in front of the Third Reich and their advancement across Europe. Even though the underground brought about a lot of good in Europe, it produced negative effects as well. Because of this loss the Nazis were receiving, they pumped out even more and more propaganda to the people, promising good things to the German people if they would commit their life to the Nazi Reich, all while serving Adolf Hitler as their true leader and God. Corrie ten Boom herself explained the situation best. Love. How does one show it? How could God himself show truth and love at the same time in a world like this? Underground workers at this time knew that the culture which they lived would not allow them to play the part of the Good Samaritan. However, they took on that role without hesitancy in spite of the inevitable outcome some of them would face. This bravery stemmed into additional attempts of violent ends to the tyranny in Europe. In the end, this heroism did not go unnoticed. While the Holocaust was a devastating time for everyone in Europe and the world, it can be confidently stated that without the help of the resisting movements throughout Europe, many more would have died. From the camp and ghetto rebellions to the underground movements, these Jews overcame biblical-sized disadvantages to help free some of their own people. These times of valuable moments in Jewish culture will always be remembered as fearless and significant in history.